Good morning, John Walker for the COD TV, and this morning we're talking about brewing coffee, and we're using the Single Serve Keurig coffee maker. And it's not good enough just to drop a pod in and make a cup of coffee. You want to make the best coffee you can. So I'm going to show you how I make not just a cup of coffee or brew a cup of coffee with the Single Serve Keurig coffee maker. I'm going to show you how you can make a good or a great cup of coffee with the Single Serve Keurig coffee maker. So let's get started. This is how I do it. You know, when you want to brew a great cup of coffee, the first thing it starts with is a great coffee. Really, even the coffee maker is second to the coffee. So here's what I'm using. These are Costco beans. They're Colombian Supreme, and I find, just a shout out to Costco, that this Costco Colombian Supreme is really a great coffee, and I like it. It's a high grade 100% Colombian coffee, and I've been using it for quite some time. I tried others, Starbucks, but this really makes a great coffee. So number one, start with a great bean. That's the first step to making your great cup of coffee. Now let's walk back in time a little bit, because I'm using the Single Serve Keurig, and it's been out for a few years. But what made the Keurig so popular is its consistency in brewing a great cup of coffee. And down below we have the pods. And it was because of this pod system that it was always consistent. A single measure of coffee, a single measure of water, so a consistency was created. And also the way it brews the coffee, which I'll talk about in a minute. So this is what made the Keurig so popular, is consistency in brewing coffee. Because believe it or not, when you're brewing something, whether you're brewing beer, brewing coffee, brewing tea, there's a science to it, and you have to know what you're doing to make a great cup. Well, still walking back in history, let's talk about the pods a little more. You see 3 pods here. The pods were very popular, but early on there was not a pod you could use to make your own coffee, so you were limited to what you could buy. And at that time it was largely from one coffee producer or maker. Green Mountain, I believe, was the company. But now many people make pods. And that's also a problem now. Are you getting a good pod? Is it good coffee in there, bad coffee? Well, when number 2 came out in the center, this purple self pod, you now could use your own coffee. And that really has made the Keurig much better. But there is a little problem. It can be hard to brew your own coffee or grind your own coffee for your own pod. And we'll talk about that a little bit later too. Just to talk about that purple pod in the center, and we'll pull it out and highlight it. This pod allows you to use your own coffee. And now you can select the coffee you like best, and I showed you the coffee I consistently like to use. And so we're going to show you how you grind the coffee, how you fill the pod, and how to make a great cup of coffee. Now for grinding, you've seen on my other videos, if you watched them on making coffee or brewing coffee, my BRAUN coffee grinder. It's just a nut grinder, coffee grinder, spice grinder, and I put the coffee in and I grind it typically 12 seconds. Put the whole beans in, grind it 12 seconds. I'll take the bag of beans and And I'll just put the beans in until it fills to the top. Push the beans, pat them down. That's how you put them in the grinder. Now the grinder, I'm just gonna do the old Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2, or 1001, 1002. I just mentally count and grind about 12 seconds. All right, done grinding. Now I'll put the coffee in just a container, just a plastic container I've been using. Got from the Chinese store. And I only grind just one at a time. Now you could grind more and store more, but I like to keep it as fresh as possible. One thing I might mention, that when you're grinding coffee, you get some at the top, so you might want to tap the top, tap the sides to knock the coffee all down into the center. So that's what I do, just tap it a little bit, because you notice when you take the top off, now the coffee is ground in the center and it's all down. So then, like I said, I just use a container, same container. It's just a plastic container from the Chinese store. Soup came in. And it has a seal, so it seals pretty good. It's a nice tight seal. Now to put the coffee in the pod, I like this 1/8 of a cup stainless steel cup measure. It works very good. It seems to fit about the right size. Sometimes I'll do it over the sink so I don't spill no coffee, but I'll show you how I do it. All right, so I just dip in with the coffee, and then I just keep this open. Just open it. I just put the coffee in. Try not to spill it. Now, I like this. Interesting. Just funny. I say it's funny because it fit perfect. So I can put it in here and just press the coffee down a little bit. I can brush the rest of the coffee in. And then you just close it. And like I said, that makes it neater when you put the coffee in. Like I said, a lot of times I'll do this over the sink so I don't spill no coffee. But I wanted to show you how I do it, how I put the coffee in. All right, folks. The number 2 ingredient in coffee, not to be overlooked, is your water. And your water is very important. If you have great public water, then go ahead and use it. We have great public water where I live. In fact, it's been tested. It's been tested against bottled water, and a blind taste test that people preferred the tap water over the bottled water. So if you have great water, use it. If you don't have good water, then you probably will have to go out and you might have to buy some type of bottled water so that you have great water. Water is very important in making your coffee. It can change the flavor of your coffee. Okay. The other important thing about the water in the Keurig is the amount you use. And this is where I struggled a little bit. In fact, I was almost ready to ship this Keurig back to the store, take it back, because my coffee was not coming out good. And it simply was, you have to control the amount you use. I couldn't make as big of a cup of coffee as I used to make. I found out for my taste, I have to limit the water to 1 cup. Let me repeat. You have to find out how much water you want to use for your taste of coffee. And if you're used to having one of these big mugs of coffee, I found out the Keurig is really designed for a cup like this, what you might get in a restaurant or when they pour a cup of coffee. So I'll show you the difference here in a second. Let me push them back. See the difference? The Keurig, the large mug, and even a 3rd cup. Even this cup will not be filled up with coffee. And that's because the Keurig has a set amount of coffee. And remember, there's always a ratio of the amount of coffee to the amount of water. Let me repeat that. To make a great cup of coffee, you have to understand there's a ratio of coffee to water. How much coffee, how much water. In this case, the Keurig only allows us to use about 2 tablespoons of coffee. And so you can really only use a cup of water. You start using more water, your coffee is going to become weak. Remember that. Okay, it's time to brew. So we added the water. So we'll come up here, we'll close the water top. We'll close the front of the coffee maker. You'll see the light flash twice. It keeps flashing. We'll push the brew button, and once we push that button, we'll wait 2 minutes, and in 2 minutes, we'll have our coffee. Okay, now I'm going to show you something else, a tool that's very important when you're making coffee. This is a iChef Temperature Pro. I'm going to show you why that's so important in a minute, because coffee has to be brewed and maintained at a certain temperature to taste great. What you're thinking, you're probably thinking, boy, this is getting all complicated. Measure the water, measure the coffee, measure the temperature. But really, once you do it a few times and you get it down, it's easy to do. So don't let, just going through the steps fool you. But here's the temperature. Let me show you something about the temperature. Now, what I'm doing, I'm actually measuring the temperature as it comes out the Keurig. And you can see it's 164, 174 degrees. So 166. And now I'm actually going to put it in the coffee, stir the coffee. And let's just leave it in there. Okay, now we have just measured the coffee. As it came out, it was 170 at the tops, the water. But you notice now it's already dropped down to 154. You might say, well, why did the coffee drop in temperature? It's your cup. Because the cup is not hot, but the cup is room temperature, the cup absorbs the heat almost instantly. Well, we have a little device that takes care of that to bring it back up to about 160. Actually, I like my coffee around 150 degrees. But the problem is I'm going to add half and half. And the half and half is cold, so it's going to bring the temperature down even more. So here's the little device we use. I find 18 seconds in the microwave is all I need to bring it back to the temperature I want. And we're done. Okay, there you see the temperature. And I'll put it on the screen too. It's 163 degrees after bringing it out the microwave. So I warmed it back up 10 degrees. Now here's the temperature after I put in my half and half. Yes, I like to put half and half in. I put in a hair too much, so I really like my temperature about 150. No lower than, let's say, 145. 140 is definitely on the low end. But you see, temperature is important too. So once you know how long to microwave it, and by the way, I microwave mine 18 seconds. I don't think 20 would make a difference. But 18 seconds is what I typically do. And you can see it's 146 degrees, the coffee. Okay, I did 12 more seconds, only 12. 12 seconds in the microwave, 154 degrees. 154 degrees, that's the temperature of my coffee. Best temperature to serve coffee, 160 to 170 degrees. Well, there you have it. John Walker for LaCotte TV. I'm happy to show you how I brew a great cup of coffee using the Single Serve Keurig coffee maker. And I waited to do this video till I learned how to perfect what I was doing. So There's only one thing left. You know what that is? Let's taste the coffee. That's a good cup of coffee in the morning. Yep, that is one good cup of coffee. Thanks for watching. John Walker, Lacad TV. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. You don't really have to give it a thumbs up. I find that just stores more videos. But if you like the video, you like my cooking, John or Juan, on Lacad TV, please subscribe to the channel. Lacad TV, we're a YouTube channel. Thanks and have a great day.